Hello, this is Watch All About with another watch review. In this review we're looking at a new watch brand, Birline, who started out last year. They got funded through Kickstarter, as many new watch brands tend to do nowadays. They were after a pledge of £6,000 and they succeeded and exceeded that by getting £10,199. So here we have an example, and this is how it comes. So then if we open it up, here we have it. So initially you can see that it's designed around a very minimalist style, which is becoming quite popular in recent times as well. Think of Brathwaite and Daniel Wellington. They all share this kind of style, particularly the body, which is very thin, and also the hands and the hour markers, all very simple, elegant and thin as well. So they share that. Birline's main unique selling point, though, is the fact that they come with genuine Harris tweed straps, which, as far as I can tell, they are the only watch company to offer that. So that is definitely a positive for them. So usually you only get one, but I've managed to secure three to show you a variety of different styles. So I've got a nice grey one here, and then like a green one, and then a nice greeny brown one as well. So so that is definitely, obviously, a positive for them. So it will cost you £150 to buy one of these watches. So is that reasonable? I think it is reasonable. You do get a sapphire crystal. It's a Swiss-made movement. It's the Ronda 762, which is actually one of the higher quartz watches that they do, because these movements have 4 jewels rather than the traditional 1 jewel in the cheaper movements, and it's also gold plated as well. And it also has the extended battery life of 10 years rather than about 5 years. So although it's a quartz movement, it's it's actually a really good quartz movement when you compare it to what you usually see in watches for this price range. So that's good to see that. So yeah, for £150, it's cheaper than the Daniel Wellington. It's not quite as cheap as the what are they called? I can't think now. The other minimalist watch that I mentioned earlier on is not quite as cheap as, that's it, Brathwaite. So it's sort of middle ground, but I do feel that you are paying mainly for the Harris tweed strap. So talking about the strap, it is very comfortable. It has a genuine leather backing as well, which is good. So you don't get the itchy Harris tweed on your skin, directly on your skin. So it is actually surprisingly comfy to wear. It looks good as well. Some people may query it, thinking, "Oh, why have they got some sort of woolen strap?" But when you're wearing it, it does seem to be quite quite a design feature of the watch. So it does look good in that regard. The tweed is obviously genuine Harris, because they wouldn't be able to advertise it as otherwise, because Harris tweed have actually a lot of rules they have to abide by. So it is quite a strict way of using it. So it's good that they've managed to secure the ability to use Harris tweed. So on top, it is very soft, and it has that classic tweed style to it. You do get the occasional bit of fluff come off it, but it also does pick up a bit of lint as well when you're wearing it. Say, for instance, with the jumper, it will pick up a bit of fluff as you're wearing it. But the strap is obviously very well made, because the edging is quite neat, nicely trimmed, and the stitching is all very good as well. So it does seem to be very good in that regard. And we have the Birline stamp there, which is quite light, but it's deep enough to see. Whilst we're on the strap, we can see here we have the, if I just give that a bit of a wipe, quite a simple and straightforward buckle, polished, to match the case, with the Birline logo lightly etched on it as well, which is a nice touch. So thinking about the case then, the size of it is 40mm in diameter, but it seems to actually wear a little bit larger than that, mainly because of the incredibly thin incredibly thin bezel, sorry. So, you know, when you're looking at the watch, it is basically all dial. I'd say that the bezel is probably only about 1mm thick. So here it is on my about 7¼ or so inch wrist. It does fit me reasonably well, but it does, you know, I think a 7-inch wrist, you'd be, you know, you wouldn't want to wear it if you had a smaller wrist than 7 inches, I wouldn't have thought. So although it's, you know, reasonably big in diameter, the height of it is a mere 6mm. So just like the other minimalist watches, it is extremely thin, thanks to the quartz movement, and the lug-to-lug length is 47mm. So that is, you know, reasonably long as well. So it, you know, it may wear a little bit large on some people, so just be aware of that. Okay, so the case itself is all polished, as you can see. We'll just wipe it down, and follows the traditional shape of these minimalist watches. So you have a taper on the back, going into this smaller case back here, secured by 4 screws. And we have this little shaft as well, protruding out to hold the very small crown as well, which is a nice touch. So you know, it's very, very light to wear, as you would imagine. So it does have good wearability. It's comfortable on, because basically you can barely tell it's there. And the machining of the whole case seems to be very well done. Obviously, it is bound to be a little bit on the cheaper side than, say, a Swiss-made watch costing a few £100, but it's perfectly sufficient for the price you're paying. You know, it's all very well polished. There's no machining marks or anything like that, so it does do well in that regard. And then we have very lightly laser etched on the case back those details, such as, you know, sapphire crystal, Swiss movement, water resistant, etc., etc. So the dial, the dial itself is a very nice champagne-y, silvery, goldy colour, very light champagne colour. It has a slight matte finish to it as well, so it creates a nice contrast with the reflective polished hour markers and hands, as you can see there. You can still read it nicely, which is good. So I do really like the colour, and I think it's a very responsible colour to pick, because basically it will go with any of these straps, and you do have a choice of 18 straps, but as you can see, it will go with, if I can get that focused, we'll go with any of these colours really. So there we go. So yeah, it is a nice colour. So the dial elements themselves are all very nicely machined as well, very accurately applied. I do like the depth of the baton hour markers. I just wish that the numbers and the logo were the same kind of depth, because they just don't seem to be quite as high quality as the batons. They're a little bit on the thin side, if you can see what I mean, and I'll show you obviously under the macro lens in a bit. They're still very nicely made, nicely applied, but they just don't quite seem as nice as they could be, but obviously that would incur extra cost making them as well as the batons. The hands, very simple, very thin, batons with an arrowed point, and then a thinner shaft right at the bottom, which seem to, you know, do the job well for you to read the time. I've never found it difficult to tell the time with this watch, so in that regards, it's you know, it does its job well. Okay, so I think we've covered everything there. So let me just get the macro lens on and we'll have a look at it in further detail. So let's start with the dial. So this is the logo. For something so small, they have got a surprising amount of detail on that that crown icon actually, so that's fairly good. And here we have the hour markers. You can see how deep the buttons are in comparison to the numbers. It is a shame, but you can't expect everything. And then you can see the matte texture to the dial itself as well. And then all this printing on the outer minute track is fine and precise as well. And then if we look at the hands, you can see they have a very slight pitch to them, which does reflect the light in a couple of different ways, which is nice when it catches the light. And you can see that the hands are very well made, very accurate as well. No tool marks or machining marks there. Okay, so if we move on to the case now, just give it a quick wipe. So if we start at the back with the case back, you see here the laser etching there, quite light, but good enough to read it. It does pick up fingerprints very, very easily, as you can imagine. It's very hard to wipe it down. One thing I forgot to mention actually was the lugs are drilled through, which is good. So it makes it nice and easy to change your straps. If you get a few, you could just poke your strap changing pin tool in there, and it'll release the pin nice and easy. So here's the crown, the tiny crown. Again, nicely machined for something so small. A little bit fiddly to pull out though. There we go. And here's just a bit of the edging. And the lugs are quite a unique, unusual shape as well, which is quite nice to see. Okay, not forgetting we have a sapphire crystal, which is ever so slightly raised above the watch itself. So just be careful not to smash that. Oh, I forgot to show you the look at the strap in closer detail. So let's have a look at the buckle to begin with. So there's the laser etching on the buckle and the polished finish of the buckle itself. There we go. This is the leather back with the Birline stamp and the stitching. There's the edging. You can see the contrast between the tweed and the leather. And then just a nice close-up of the tweed itself. Show you one of these as well. This is a very nicely stitched piece of tweed. Then we have this one as well. There we go. That's tweed up close. Looks a bit different when you put it under a macro lens. Okay, so I certainly think that Birline have got a decent, unique selling point in form of the tweed straps. I think they're a great fashion icon. The straps, that is, because loads of people love tweed items, and you know they're very high quality and they last for years and years and years. So I think this is a watch that could potentially last you for a very long time because of the decent strap, the sapphire crystal, the good Ronda movement, which lasts for 10 years. It's Swiss made as well. So for 150 quid, I think it's a perfectly suitable option. I mean, the problem is you can get other automatic watches for the same price. I'm thinking of the Rodina, for instance, or anything by Perpetual, which also have sapphire crystal but with automatic movements and are equally as well made. So I would recommend the Birline if you know, if you really wanted the Harris tweed strap, or if you obviously like the design, because there's no way you can get a watch that thin, which is a mechanical watch, unless you're paying a lot of money. So if you really are interested in the design, the thinness and the strap, then I would definitely recommend the Birline. So yeah, it's a nice watch for £150. So there we go. So this was the Birline classic watch, and that's what it's all about.